Donald, could you sing the old story, please?
Oh, no, the old story will never grow. How Jesus died to save my soul. Oh, no, the old story will never grow. That story will never grow old. I went to church one lonely night. I sat way back, for my soul was not right. When the preacher was preaching how Jesus died for a sin-filled world, he laid down his life. Oh no, the old story will never grow old. How Jesus died to save my soul. Oh no, the old story will never grow old. That story will never grow old. I went to the altar and in prayer knelt down. Lord, please have mercy, and he pardoned me there. He lifted my burden, brought peace to my soul, and what made my life new was that story so old. Many years have passed by since I found the Lord. I remember that night when the story was told. Time has no hold on the message it brings. That story is old, but it's still blessing me. Oh no, the old story will never grow old. How Jesus died to save my soul. Oh no, the old story will never grow old. That story will never grow old. That story will never grow old.
Amen. Anything else on our hearts this morning? You won't intervene, I promise. You don't need to worry about waiting too long. We're all on the Lord's time. We ain't going to go by no set time. I know we've seen churches do that, and I'm glad they do it the way they feel they need to, but I mean, we ain't going to go by no time.
Brother Wood, before you get started, I ain't had a whooping this bad in a long time, and I wasn't going to say nothing, but I can't hardly stand it no more. Sister Sanders sang that song there, and then the song Old Story, and as I listened to her and listened to both of those, there's good instruction in each one of them songs, and they both play on one another. I want you to understand this morning that that song Old Story is what causes something to get a hold of you. And I want you to understand too that when something gets a hold of you, it's time to run toward it and try to get a hold of what's got a hold of you. And when you do that, there's a verse of song that comes to my mind that when they were singing those songs, and it's pretty well sums up all the assurance that a person can have. And the words to that are, it says, Mark Lowry is the one that wrote the song and sang it, and it says that I would rather live in a deep dark cave and know that my poor soul is saved than to live in this world in a house of gold and deny my God and lose my soul. morning that I didn't deny my God, didn't I? Oh, I didn't. Oh, that night he got a hold of me. I went after him as diligently as I knew how. And you know what? Me and him got hooked up that night. And because of that, I didn't deny him.
Man, there'll be something else on anybody's hearts this morning. Honey, don't sit down on the Lord now. We've got him here in a great and powerful way, and there's lost judge saved here. If you got a part you need to do at any point in this service, you stand and do it. I might stop, I might not. If you got something to say, just stand and say it. If you need to go shake somebody's hand, go do it any time that you feel obliged to. I thought long and hard on how to start this. And the only way I know how to is to go through all the things that were used. The first thing I know to start with is a piece of cane. It's a little piece of a limb about 3/4 of an inch in diameter. They cut them off at about 6 foot. And the easiest thing I know how to describe it as is a piece of PVC pipe and its strength and flexibility. It takes a hard hit to ever break one. The next thing they used, I can't even remember the name of because I don't want to, was a handle of about 8 inches. And they had anywhere from 10 to 12 leather straps, anywhere from 1 inch wide to 1.5 inches wide, 12 to 14 inches long. And they had pieces of wood and pieces of sharpened bone and rocks tied in the ends of them, where when you get hit with it, it wouldn't cut you, it'd stick in you and tear you out from the innards. They had whips 6 foot long. If you've been to my house, you might have seen me make a bull whip before. I've made them from 3 foot long to 12 foot. You take strands, you pull them around from the back, one right after the other, and they lay in tight. A bull whip works off the fact of fluid motion and energy transfer. It's the reason that it's tapered from a big side down to a little side. When it cracks at the end, it's breaking the speed of sound. Over 960 something mile an hour is how fast that little piece on the end is going when you hear a pop off the bull whip. I typically do mine starting with 12 strings on my last layer. When you do 12 strings, it's so tight. If you get a piece of trash in it, it'll stick up, it won't work. They normally weave theirs with 4 pieces of leather. You could tie in anything from a piece of femur bone to a stick as big around as your arm. The last thing that they used, where they made him get up and walk, they had a stump fixed in the ground with a loop that you could tie chains to. They had chains tied around my Lord's arms. They had him set to his knees and tied to that stump, and they start with the canes. Now keep in mind, it takes a hard lick to break a cane. And they grab back and they hit him with everything he had, and he never opened his mouth. You keep that in your mind. He never said a word. And you go back and you think, since he was 12, he'd been preaching the word. And since he was 12 and younger, he knew the very thing he was walking his life into. He knew where he was going when he was born. And he knew what he had to do. They started with the canes, and they'd break them over his back, across his legs, causing bruises. As soon as they turned loose of one, they'd grab another and go again. When he was black from head to toe, pretty much, they come back with them other little pieces and the bull whips placed in with the sticks and the bones and the rocks, and they started tearing him back apart. He started tearing my Lord apart, tied to a stump, and he never said a word. He never said a word. They make a cross. We look at it as a cross, and here's something that I didn't know for a long time.
They made his as a cross so they could put a sign above his head and make fun of him. Even greater still, when he was doing his part, they didn't believe him. You go on, he carries it up to the mountain. They hang him on nails. Now these nails were 6 to 8 inches long. They started at a needle-like taper and transferred up to a 1/2 to 5/8 square. They'd fix a flat on the end, or they could cram a washer on it. That way it wouldn't pull through your hands and your feet when you stood there at home. After all of this was done, and he hung on the tree by himself, he had 2 other men beside him. One was both were thieves, if I remember correctly. He had one on each side of him. One got on the mountain saying, Lord, if it be of you, bring down 10,000 angels to remove us from these trees and prove yourself unto thine. And the other one said, Lord, if it be of you, remember me when you enter into thine kingdom and take me with you. And he answered to the one that simply asked him and said, Son, you'll be with me. I ain't got a clue where any of this is going. I just pray I can fall back in the Lord's arms. But now, when you turn over in the book of John, to the 20th chapter, all this is building up to where we're at now. He's done being killed. He gave up the ghost. When you go back, where's that? The 19th chapter, in the 26th verse, here's where Jesus is on the cross and Mary's come to see him. She don't even recognize him. It says, when Jesus therefore saw his mother and the disciples standing by whom he loved, he said unto his mother, Woman, behold thy son. Then saith he to the disciple, Behold thy mother. You go on over into the 30th verse, and Jesus says, It is finished. And he bowed his head to give up his own life, where we can have a doorway to step through. And that's what it is this morning. Jesus is the doorway to step through into salvation, into heaven. There ain't no open window to go through. There ain't nothing else that you can fall into and get there. There's one way, and that one way is through Jesus and Jesus only, because right there, he gave up his life on the cross. And I went through all that way we'd have a greater understanding as to the things that he went through, just so he could open the door of mercy, because his Father, I promise, is mad this morning because of the way that this whole world is going. I know we preach a God of love, and he is a God of great love, because he loved us enough to go through the things that he did, to hang on the tree and provide a doorway into that heavenly place. But his Father's mad this morning because if you had a son that you sent and had him to do the things that he did this morning, and you had people turn away from him instead of listening and believing, we might be upset too. That's where the one word of mercy comes into play at. He provides mercy to us on this earth, saved and lost, that we can have the luxuries and pleasures that we do in the whole world. I heard it in the song the other night, that this whole world and this life that I have is nothing more than a dressing room. And it is nothing more than a dressing room, just like when you get married or you go out on a date or something like that. You go through a preparation of time to get ready for what is to come. That's all this is. It's nothing more than a dressing room to get your life back in line and back saved with God. That way you can carry on into a better life that'll be there eternally. Said all that. Come on down into the 20th chapter. I think I'm going to start there in the 11th verse, if I remember correctly. It says, But Mary stood without a scepter weeping, and as she wept, she stooped down and looked into the sepulchre, and seeth 2 angels in white sitting, one at the head and the other at the feet, where the body of Jesus had lain. And it just gets you back up to speed. They've done killed him. And here's something else I want to point out. A lot of times when they was on the cross, hanging for what they'd done wrong, a lot of times the soldiers would have to break their legs, make them fall and pull their shoulders up against their necks where they couldn't breathe. eventually suffocate. But they didn't do that with Jesus, because that was part of the prophecy that was set before him. He said he'd not have a bone broken. And so when he laid his head down and said, "It is finished," they didn't have to break his legs, but they stuck a spear in his side to make sure that he was dead in that moment. So we go on down. They've had him wrapped up in different gowns, and they laid a napkin upon his face and laid him in the tomb. They rolled a stone. They rolled a stone in front of the sepulchre. And the stone stood anywhere from about 6'6" to 6 foot flat, 12 to 14 inches thick. When you got a rock that big, it goes up around 2,000 pounds, 4,000 pounds, depending on what they cut the stone out of. Going back over to where I was reading that, back down to the 13th verse, and it says, "And they said unto her, Woman, why weepest thou? She saith unto them, Because they have taken away my Lord, and I know not where they have laid him." Right there, using the context clues and the smartness that the Lord's given me, you can tell right there that the stone was rolled away. For the simple fact that if it was still there, she'd have believed he was in there and didn't have to worry about it. But when she walked up to the sepulchre, the stone was gone, and she said, "Where is my Lord?" We go on down to the 14th. It says, "And when she had thus said, she turned herself back and saw Jesus standing, and she knew not that it was Jesus. And Jesus said unto her, Woman, why weepest thou, and whom seekest thou? She, supposing him to be the gardener, saith unto him, Sir, if thou have borne him hence, tell me where thou hast laid him, and I will take him away. Jesus said unto her, Mary. She turned herself and saith unto him, Rabboni, which is the same master. And Jesus saith unto her, Touch me not, for I am not yet ascended to my Father, but go to my brethren, and say unto them, I ascend unto my Father, and your Father, and to my God, and to your God. And Mary Magdalene came and told the disciples that she had seen the Lord, and that he had spoken these things unto her. Then the same day at the evening, beginning of the first day of this week, when the doors were shut, where the disciples were assembled for fear of the Jews, came Jesus and stood in the midst, saying unto them, Peace be unto you. Right there, let me go back, get the number now. In the 15th verse, he says, Woman, why weepest thou? Whom seekest thou? And he's sitting right behind her. What are you looking for? Who are you trying to find? I'm standing right here. Honey, when you're lost and you're undone without God, you'll go through 100 different things in your mind trying to find a God that's sitting there behind you saying, Who are you looking for? I'm right here. And that's as simple as it gets. I know I can stand up here and say it's simple because I've done got saved. But honey, when I was lost, I did all them little mind games too. I used to bow down in that back corner and I'd imagine an old forest just dark as night. And there'd be a little light out in there somewhere and I'd run through there trying to find it with my mind. When I'd find it, I'd say, There you are, God. But I don't feel no different. What's the difference? Why ain't I saved? Honey, you're playing it with your mind. You can't play it with your mind. It's laid out perfect in front of you. Just as Mary saw it, she stepped up to the sepulchre. There wasn't nothing there. It was plain to see he wasn't there no more. She sat in there, asked him where he's at. And when it come down to the point of trying to find him, he said, Honey, what are you looking for? I'm right here. Honey, when you bow down and seek it, because the old Lord's knocking on your heart, he ain't going to be immediately where you go to. Because immediately where you go to is a spot in your mind where you're holding on to something that's blocking you from him, and you got to turn loose all them old things. And mine was my brother sitting right there. I couldn't turn loose of him. I loved him more than life, and honey, I still do. But I had to turn loose of him and say, Lord, I got to have you. When you turn loose of what's blocking you and him, it's the same as turning around and looking at him in the face. Whew. I wish I could someday, just to see what he really looks like. Well, honey, I ain't got to worry about that too long. I got to worry about it for the set number of years that I'm here. But when I turn loose all them old things, and he's sitting there saying, honey, what are you looking for him right here? I turn around, and there he is. I've got a time set before me, but these old years it's counting down, and the days that I wander through are going to be no more. The breaths that I take are numbered, and I'm counting them down one by one. And when it gets down to that end, there'll be no more. But honey, when you find out that this old brother's dead and laying in a casket somewhere, you better not go looking for me there, and you better not be crying and weeping for one that's gone, but be shouting and rejoicing. For an angel got his wings, honey. That's all it is when you die as a saved person, you've got a better home awaiting. And when you get there, there ain't going to be no more pain, no sorrow, nor nothing like that. And honey, I love to stand and tell all the goodness of the Lord and preach all the wonderful things of heaven. But I can tell you now, describing all the good things as a sales pitch, that's all they think they're buying. There's still a whole list of things we've got to endure. And especially if you're lost and undone, you got a longer things of list that you'll have to endure that ain't going to be no good for nothing. As a saved person, you're going to have bad days, you're going to have rough weeks. That's just part of life. But as a saved person, when I get down and out, and I'm having a bad day, and I crush my thumb in the door or anything else, honey, there's somebody that I can go to that'll help me through it and forget about it. Honey, when you're lost, you ain't got nobody. You ain't got nothing. You get up in the morning, you say, I hope I can get to where I'm going. I hope when I get there it'll be all right. Honey, hope don't get you very far. Hope will get you in the devil's hell. Honey, I have faith that my Lord will carry me to work in the morning. I have faith that my Lord will carry me through the day. And I have faith that He'll bring me back home tomorrow night. And if I don't, that's just as good. And it's just as good because I've got a better home awaiting when I make it there. Honey, that's the one thing where I just, you go on down. He says in the same day, they sat in fear. And Jesus come and say, peace be unto you. Honey, as a lost person, when you go out in this old world, that's all you're full of. You try and hide it, you hide it pretty good sometimes. But you're scared. You're scared of what's coming, what could happen, what might happen. And he says, peace be unto you. Honey, when I got down into a broken heart and a contrite spirit that Sunday morning, guess what he said unto me? He said, peace be unto you. And it was that simple. There ain't gonna be no big flashy fireworks. They ain't gonna be getting up and running across the beach tops. There ain't gonna be shouting and hollering unless the Lord tells you to. Honey, if He tells you to, you better get after it. She said something this morning that I love. Been with the church 50 years. I can tell you right now, the company I'm with in Lebanon, it's MyCal USA. I love my job. I got into welding when I was a sophomore in high school. Actually, a little before that. I got into welding. When I got into it, I figured out what I was good at, what I wasn't okay on that. I learned real quick that pipe welding was my number one suit. I wanted to pipe weld no matter what I had to do. Graduated high school, went to TCAT Arsenal. I was sitting on campus looking at jobs in Oklahoma, northern Texas, and Nebraska. Brand new pipelines coming through, 5 of them, heading from south going to Canada. I sit there with a tear in my eye, knowing I had a job to do here, knowing that a little fella was on the way, and knowing that I had 7 generations of family born and raised on one little streak of road. And I thought, Lord, if this is it, let me know. But now I can't. Whew. God bless the man. Mr. Clyde Mansfield taught school down there. Come by. We talked for a few minutes. I knew right quick I didn't need to go out west. I'll find trailers, dump truck beds, they didn't mind. I got a call. I had a rough week. Some stuff went down I didn't like. I prayed about it, and I said, Lord, if this is it, let me know. I'll keep working, but if it ain't, send me somewhere else to go. That was on a Friday evening, Monday around 9 o'clock. I had 2 missed calls. I called them back on dinner. Can you come down here and take a test? Yes, sir, I can. You give me a time and date and I'll be there. Took a well test, got hired on. Anyhow, for everything that's set up in that company, I have no problem putting 40 years in and retire. I'm going to have a good life, hopefully. You want me to tell you somewhere that I promise you can put in 40 and 50 and 60 years that ain't going to do nothing but pay you back for the time that you put in on it? That ain't going to do nothing but help you along when times get hard? You ain't going to have to ask for a day off. You won't have to work overtime. You won't have to do nothing like you would in a normal job. And honey, that's this old church house right here. When you get put in with her and you get hired in, as I like to think it is, and you go to work in this old church, she ain't going to do nothing but pay you back all the time between the blessings that the Lord will give you and the different things that this old church will give you too. Honey, I promise that when you ask for a prayer, there'll be prayers spoken all week long about it. When that 40 or 50 years is up, when the good Lord calls you home, you ain't going to have no better retirement than anything you have on this order. Let's go on down. I just want to read this last part right here. He tells his disciples, peace be unto them. And then in the 20th verse, and he said, when he has said, he has showed them his hands and his side. Then were the disciples glad that they saw the Lord. And Jesus said unto them again, peace be unto you. As my Father has sent me, as I send you. And he said, and when he had said this, he breathed unto them, and saith unto them, receive ye the Holy Ghost. Whosoever sins ye remit, they are remitted unto them. And whosoever sins you retain, they are retained. That Holy Ghost is what we work off of today. It's how we feel and know the Spirit's with us. A lot of times I'd love to go back and be able to live before He comes, to understand how they felt. But honey, I'm glad that I know how to feel now. And I'm glad that I know what it's like when the Spirit comes amongst us. And I'm glad that I know that I've got a God that's going to carry me through. I'm glad that I got to preach this morning. Honey, I know it wasn't much. That's all it takes. When the Lord knocks on your heart, He ain't 400 miles off. He ain't nowhere else but sitting right there with you saying, here I am. What are you looking for? Here I am. He's got His hand stretched out. He's trying to get you and help you into a better life. Saying, here I am. Honey, all you got to do is turn loose everything betwixt you and Him and reach out to Him. Say, take me on, Lord. Take me on. Those things. Let's get a song in how y'all want to do it. Number 264.